Hey guys, it's Travis at TruAudio, out here showing an UltraScape install. Before we get started on the install, I want to tell you a little bit about the system. It itself is a standalone system that can't be used with any other landscape speakers. The system supports 4 or 6 speakers total with 1 sub. Today we're going to show everything from the system design to the final install. Let's get started on the design. For this system design, the homeowner has decided to put a pergola and sitting area here. That being known, we've based the design on the perimeter, all pointing towards that system with the sub in the corner so that we can corner load it and get all the bass reflection coming back to the listening area. And each of the speakers laid out 8 to 10 feet apart. Since we have the design laid out, let's get started with the install. For this design, we don't have access to the inside of the house, so we've decided to use our outdoor enclosure with access to this power outlet to house our amplifier and vessel. And from here, we'll dig trenches and run wire to each one of the speakers and subwoofer. So we have the trenches dug and the wire ran. In our case, we're using 2 sets of 16-2 direct burial wire. We recommend using 16 or 14 gauge wire, just making sure that you have 4 total conductors going from where the amplifier is or will be to the subwoofer, and then from the subwoofer we'll go out to the speakers from there. Now we have the hole dug and the wire ran. The subwoofer can be installed vertically or horizontally. Vertically, you'll have a deep hole that's not quite as wide. Horizontally, you'll have a wide hole that's not quite as deep. In this sense, we've decided to go horizontally. Before you put your sub in, you want to put a layer of gravel. This will help with drainage, and it'll also help prevent your sub from floating in areas with high water tables. Now let's get into wiring. With the Ultra 10 subwoofer, it'll come with the mushroom top, the subwoofer itself, 2 clamps, and a piece you'll use depending on your orientation. In this case, we're using the elbow since we do want to install this horizontally. While putting on this piece, there's a side that you can tell is really loose, along with a side that fits a little snug. That's the side you're gonna want to make sure you use. So you'll put the elbow on, put the clamp over the top, tighten this up. Okay, so now that we have this side tightened down, we'll put the clamp over so that we can put the mushroom top in. All right, you push that far as it'll go down, and then you'll tighten this one up. Nice and tight. The sub is now completely watertight. Before we make our final terminations at the sub, we'll have to make sure that we get the speakers installed. To start this, we'll start by getting the stake into the ground. We recommend using a rubber mallet. Any metal mallets will run the risk of damaging the stake itself. Starting with the 2 speakers on the left channel, we're gonna start at the end of the daisy chain and work our way towards the sub. Let's get the speakers mounted. Start by running the speaker wire through the hole in the stake from the top, pulling it all the way through. The Ultra 10 will come with an Allen wrench that you can use to adjust your speakers to best fit your listening area. For now, we're gonna get all the speakers daisy chained back to the subwoofer, starting with the final speaker in the left channel. Doing that, we're gonna do the red positive wires and the black negative wires wired together using the wire nuts included in the UltraScape package. For the second speaker in the daisy chain, we're going to take this side, which is coming from the last speaker, and this side, which is coming from the subwoofer. And we're going to cut this and now strip all of these wires. Okay, so now that we have all these stripped, we're going to take all 3 of the reds, the one from the other daisy chain speaker, the one from the current speaker we're on, and the one from the subwoofer, and we'll be sure to wire all the reds together. Now those are wired together, we'll do all the blacks. Now that we have these two speakers on the left channel daisy chained together, we'll repeat the same process on the right channel. Now that we have the left channel and right channel speakers wired together, we need to finish it by terminating them to the subwoofer and to the amplifiers. We'll start by taking the left channel and hooking it up to the subwoofer cord that says also left positive and left negative, and also hooking up to the left channel amplifier wires. So we'll take these and do all three red positives together and all three black negatives together. Now the left negatives. All right, so the left channels are done, and now we'll work on the right channels, which will be these right positive and negatives, along with the right channel speakers and the right channel amplifier. This one, obviously it is not a black and a red, but it is, it says right positive and negative. So you'll just remember that the red is positive, black is negative, and hook them up accordingly. All right, now that all of our wires are terminated, before we start covering all the speakers and subwoofer up, we want to make sure everything's working properly. So we will set up the amplifier to test the speakers, and from there we will finish up the project. Before we get the amplifier set up, we want to get the outdoor enclosure mounted to the wall. In our case, we know we have sheeting, so we're going to use 1.5-inch grabbers. For your installs, you want to make sure you are using the appropriate hardware to secure the enclosure to the wall. We have the power cord that we've cut to the length we want going into the outlet here. And we also want to make sure that where we mount this is going to be straight up from where the speaker wire from the Ultra 10 is, so that it's a straight shot from the speaker wire through our conduit up to these punch outs here. So we are going to put the first screw in at the height that we want this installed at, and from there we will make sure it is level to be able to put that second screw in. So in this power outlet, we have these punch outs here, so we can run the cord in and run it through and keep that secure. So now we're going to measure our conduit to the punch outs from our trench to be able to run the speaker wires in. When doing so, you want to make sure you leave yourself enough room from the bottom so that your speaker wire can get into the conduit. Okay, so we're going to measure to the bottom of the outdoor enclosure. Right. Now we have our mark, so we can cut this to length. Now our enclosure, the punch out, will fit our speaker wire to the trench. When mounting the T100 to the enclosure, you want to take this piece and put it on the left side of where you'll mount it. To get this piece on, we will take out the 3 screws on this side. Have the 3 screws pulled out, we will put this on using 2 of the same screws, one going in the first hole and one going in the back hole. Now that we have these 2 screws in, we are going to use the OEB bracket, which can be ordered separately if you're using a T100 and an A1X. This bracket will come with a screw that will be able to go into the middle hole here, and it will help secure the vessel to the T100 in the enclosure. So now that we got the brackets all on the T100, we're going to get the power cord plugged in and make sure our dip switches are correct. In this case, we want to turn this amplifier to mono, which 3 down is mono. So we'll switch that down and make sure that it stays in fixed so that the vessel will control all of the volume. While terminating the speaker wire to the Phoenix connector that will plug into the T100, you want to make sure you have a small flathead screwdriver to be able to tighten the Phoenix connector on the speaker wire. And you also want to make sure that you are following what the amplifier is saying here. So from left to right, you have right positive, right negative, left positive, left negative. Okay. The Phoenix connectors do come all the way tightened, so you need to make sure that you loosen the Phoenix connector before putting the wire in. Now that the Phoenix connector is in, we want to make sure that all the positives and negatives are lined up correctly, and want to make sure that there's no strands going from one post to another. That can cause the system to not work properly or put the amp in a protective mode if there is crossover. Okay, so now we are going to mount the vessel to the bracket on the T100. The vessel will be used as the source, and the T100 will be used as the power to the system. On the back of the vessel, there is a lot of connections. We are only going to be using the analog out. You also want to make sure that amplification is turned off, since the vessel will not be powering the system. Making these connections, you will need a pair of male-to-male RCAs that are not included in the package. Go analog out from the vessel, plug it into analog in on the T100. Now we're ready to put it in the enclosure. Now when we're mounting the vessel in the T100, you want to make sure you have 2 self-tappers to go into this back plate here. Right now we are going to plug in the T100 and the A1X and make sure that the system is working correctly, and then we will come back and dress up the wires to go into the enclosure. Now setting up the vessel, you'll open the app and see a searching for devices screen. Once that screen's over, you should have a pop-up that has a picture of the A1X and the model number with the setup button below it. You'll hit the setup button and it'll take you to the accessory setup, where it'll be gathering information about your network. Once the information is gathered, it'll show your network along with the speaker name, also known as the zone name. Select your network and change the name to whatever the zone you want it to be, and hit next in the top right corner. Once you hit next, it'll start by trying to assign the vessel to your network with that zone name, and you'll see waiting for, in this case, backyard. Once it's completely set up, you'll see the screen that says setup complete. You'll hit done and your vessel is ready to go. Know that in the T100 box it will come with an IR and a remote, and in the A1X box it will come with an IR. These will not be used for this install. Now that we have everything hooked up, and before we cover the wire in the trenches, we want to test all the speakers and the sub and make sure they're all playing music. I hope this video showed you how simple it is to design, layout, and install an A1X and a T100 UltraScape 10 system. Remember that TruAudio does have a free system design service, and if you need any more information, visit TruAudio.com. Let's get these trenches filled.